Hello, everybody. This is another installment of my Arrow 3 series. Um, so, this time we're going to go from North Central State Airport in Lincoln, Rhode Island, over to Nantucket. It's going to be a pretty short flight. Expecting it to be about 35 minutes according to the navlog here. Um, so really a lot of what we did last time. The last flight we did was from King, New Hampshire, down to Norwood, and there were a few little rough edges with that. Some of it was with, say, intentions, and some of it was just some missed stuff on my part. For this, I'm going to try a little bit more to sort of have a stereo cockpit, a little bit more reflective of how I would operate with an actual passenger on a real flight. Because a lot of times, the things that you miss are often due to distractions. Even if you have a checklist around, all it takes is you're talking a little too much, or there could even just be something blindsiding you from ATC or something else. It's very important to be mindful of that when you're actually doing flights. That's often the most common reason why you might have a belly landing or certain other things that you would not normally do. And that's the thing. People say, well, how on earth do you do a gear up landing? The fact is, most people who have done them have done landings 500, 1,000 times, and all it takes is that one time when you're just something takes your mind off of flying for a minute during a very critical phase, and you end up forgetting the gear. And that's something I'm always very mindful of. The things that I missed last time were fairly minor. I forgot to adjust the mixture on cruise until a little later. I forgot about the fuel pump. These are things that could affect the plane in the long term. It reduces the lifetime of your fuel pump. Mixture affects your fuel conservation, especially. There's just things, obviously, not as critical as gear up. But still, it's one of those things. Whenever I miss something, even those minor things, I always think to myself, what if that was the gear, or what if that was switching the fuel pump, the fuel tanks? So it's important. I try to make sure that I don't miss any checklist items. Obviously, some checklist items are more vital than others, but it's always good to stick to the checklist. So with that being said, for this flight, I'm going to be as quiet as possible during the critical phases, meaning taxi, takeoff, and landing, and really approaching to land. Once we are at pattern altitude, that's when I'm going to shut up and focus on flying and making sure that I've got all my ducks in a row. So with that being said, right now we're basically cold and dark in North Central. Right now I do have add-on software. Unfortunately, I forgot what it was, but it is paidware, if I remember correctly. It adds a few a few things to the stock. You can kind of see there's the shell hangar here. There's the Cessna flight center over there. Just a few minor things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go through the really the pre-flight checklist. So I'm going to start with the Hobbs and Talk, making sure we've got almost 6,000 hours of Hobbs time. And what I would do in the real world is actually check that against the flight log. There's a maintenance log. You want to make sure that the hours line up, because if they don't, that means somebody must have gone in and they did a flight without recording. So it's always good, especially on rental aircraft. It's good to make sure that you are up to date, because rental aircraft, commercial for aircraft for hire, they require a 100-hour maintenance. And if you are over 100 hours and you take it out for a flight, well, guess what? It's not a legal flight. So, very important. So, I'm going to actually remove those. That just gives me a better view of my cockpit here. Alright, so next on the list, let's take off the tie downs. Obviously I would be outside of the aircraft for this, but what I would do is of course check the two tie downs on either wing and of course the tail tie down. One of my biggest fears is somehow forgetting the tail tie down, because that's the one that is not as easy to spot from inside the aircraft. Oil quantity, so yeah, I'll even simulate opening the oil door for that. I am going to check the fuel levels. So what that's going to do is so as you can see, it's a good thing I checked, because that is pretty low. So that indicates to me that I forgot to fill up after my last flight. Now the fuel that I'm expecting to use for the flight to Nantucket is only about 9 gallons. And as you can see, I have about 26 gallons. But what you got to think about is, obviously, if you are only flying on 9 gallons, that gives you absolutely no margin of error. The standard is you should always have, legally, you should have 30 minutes of reserve fuel. What a lot of pilots, especially low-time pilots, do is they make it 45, maybe even 60 minutes of reserve fuel. And the reserve fuel is good for two things. One is in case you have to divert, and for weather, airport closure, whatever else. There's a lot of reasons why you would divert. And number two is obviously your fuel estimates are estimates. There's a lot of things that would make you use more fuel than you were planning. Number one, of course, is wind. If the winds are not what were forecasted, you might have more of a headwind than you expected. The other one, big one, is just wear and tear on the engine. A lot of the fuel estimates assume that you have a brand new engine, it's flawless, and there's absolutely no leaks, and that's just not really practically the case. The difference might be somewhat negligible. It might be 5%, 10%, but it's still something. The other thing is just your use of the aircraft. You're not going to fly it as efficiently as the plan says. Your mixture might be a little off. You might be off on your power setting. There's all sorts of things that might make you use more fuel than you planned. So those are all factors. So the 60 minutes of reserve. So that means I'm expecting about 12 gallons per hour in the Piper Aero 3. That's going to be, if you add 12 plus 9, that's 21. So technically, I can fly out on 21 gallons of fuel, and I'll probably be fine. Practically speaking, I always say, look, if I can, just get more fuel. In this case, look, we're in the simulator. I'm going to do it this way. I'm just going to say, all right, let's see how much fuel we end up with. If the worst case scenario in a flight sim is if I run out of fuel, I'll have a very embarrassing video on YouTube, and I'll be rethinking my choices for real life for sure. But like I said, in real life, I always fill to tabs. And tabs are, when you're filling an airplane, a lot of times a plane is going to have two different flight fuel levels. One is, of course, full tanks, and another is tabs. And tabs is often 75%, sometimes it's 50%, sometimes it's, something else, but typically filling to tabs is sort of a happy medium between full tanks, which, weight becomes an issue if you're filling up. It's not like a car where you just always fill up all the time. You do want to assess your weight whenever you're fueling. So in this case, I'm just going to say, all right, let's just do it this way. Legally, I am fine, so I'm gonna go with what I've got here. Obviously, it's very simple to refuel in a simulator, but all right. So with that being said, let's. So obviously, I would be sumping the fuel. I'd be doing all of the other big checks. I'd be checking the flaps, and I'll even simulate that, but by pulling the flap lever, I would do a quick walk around. Obviously, because this is a simulator, it's not like I'm going to see any bent rods or missing antennas or anything like that, but that's what you do have to check in the real world. I would check the tire pressure, especially. Tire pressure has actually been one of the more common things that I've had to deal with on the pre-flight, and I feel like it's something that is often missed. Not everybody bothers to check the tire pressure and stuff like that, but to me it's pretty important to do that. And yeah, I would do battery check. I'd turn on the battery, just make sure that everything looks good there. Turn on the landing light. I would turn on the pitot heat, check for the pitot heat. Obviously here, because we are in a simulator, you don't really have any burnt bulbs or anything like that, so everything is actually working here. Although that landing light doesn't look very illuminated, but that's more a model issue than anything else, plus it's daytime anyways. So let's just turn off the battery for now. And there's all sorts of other things that you would check, obviously. And there are certain things that work for the simulator. For instance, annunciator lights, just making sure they work. So in any case, we are basically ready to start her up. So right now, let's do that. So prop like that. I'm gonna open the window to get myself ready for clear prop. I will check for people, and there is a person there, but I'm not gonna worry about him. All right, so let's lower the flaps. Gonna turn that like that. Gonna turn on the fuel pump. One, two, three. And then I would call clear prop. And then turn her on. So we're under 1,000 RPMs, that's good. Oil pressure's good. Fuel looks exactly what you would expect. And the fuel is on the right tank, which is the lowest tank. That's what we want for this. Alright, normally I would just keep the brakes on the toe, or my toes on the brakes, but for this I'm just going to use the parking brake. Alright. So next, I'm gonna program this in. So my route is actually, my actual route is going to be a little bit different. But for this, I am going to just do the usual. So I'm going to do K, S, F, Z, then I'll do K, ACK, A, C, K, enter, oops, there we go, and what you'll see is the straight line here kind of goes through the Providence class Charlie airspace. So I'm actually going to take a slightly different route. So one of there's two things that we need to factor in. One, of course, is your actual airspace. Now it should be pretty easy for me to be able to just tell Providence Approach, hey, I want class Charlie, I mean, basically all you have to do is contact them, and you have assumed Charlie airspace if they respond with your tail number. But you know what? I'm not even going to bother them too much. I can easily avoid them. I might still get flight following from Providence Approach, but I'm going to stay clear of the Charlie. The other thing is the water. So in a single piston, especially, you want to avoid as much open water as possible. If your engine fails and you have to find land, that's the worst possible situation you could get yourself into. So, just another thing to keep in mind. So with that all being said, I'm going to get the weather observation here. That's 120.775. Oops, this one. Alright, none of that really surprises me. That's exactly what I got on the weather briefing. So 3023 is here, and I'm also going to cross-reference that against the in fact, hang on just a sec, I'm going to check on, I forgot to do live weather here, I think. Or maybe not. Oh, there we go. Alright, that's better. So, you know, that's another thing, even in real life. I mean, the simulator is good too, but you should always cross-reference your altimeter setting with the your expected altitude. Either the ATIS could be wrong, which is pretty rare, but not unheard of, or you read it wrong. You might be doing 3124 instead of 3024 or 3023 in this case, or something else might be wrong. Maybe your altimeter is broken as well. It's just one of the checks that you want to check. Speaking of other checks, we have our magnetic compass against the directional. That's all good. I am going to bug my heading here for what I am expecting to climb out on, which is 108. So this is right there is good. And yeah. So that is all good. I do actually have VATSIM on right now. So what I'm going to do is make my traffic calls on VATSIM. All of the controllers are offline, so I'm still going to use say intentions for most of it. But when we get to Nantucket, you'll see I'm going to be making two calls. I'm going to be making a call to say intentions for the tower, and then I'm also going to be doing it, making my standard traffic calls to Nantucket on VATSIM. The reason I'm doing that is because otherwise there's absolutely no chance that I'll have any traffic, and I kind of like having traffic. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to close this window. I haven't really done too much of say intention, so we'll see how this flow goes. I'll be interested to see So we have our traffic advisory. One good thing about VATSIM that I like is it's got its CTAF frequencies correcting all, it's actually pretty close to real life. I'm also gonna turn down lean the mixture a bit here, and of course turn off the fuel pump. I should have done that before, but all right, we are ready to go. So there's different schools of thoughts on radio calls. There's different schools of thoughts on radio calls when you are on the apron or the ramp. All of my flight instructors told me it's kind of a waste of air to announce your position when you're just going onto the taxiway. It's much better to just wait until you are close to the runway before you start making your intentions to take off and all of that. Speaking of which, wind was 020, so I'm going to take runway 5. I am so used to taking runway 23 that I almost went in that direction here. So once again, I'm going to be pretty quiet right now. I'm going to be focusing on actual flying of the aircraft here. And once again, that chatter. I'm actually going to disable the chatter this time. In fact, let me stop right now and do that, because the chatter is just not that good for this. So no CAN chatter. You can do live multiplayer proximity. That's okay. And I'm also going to do, there we go. I think that's good. So, North Central traffic, Piper, 814 November Delta, crossing 33 North Central. So one thing about this scenery, it's a little bit too hilly. I really should see about getting an update if they have one for that. The runway and taxiways should be a lot flatter here. So I'm going to do the rung up right now. So for the rung up, I'm going to actually go like this. I'm going to do full that, fuel pump, left, Mag check right. Mag check left. Alright. Alt air is good. One. Two. Three. No oil on the windshield. That's not oil, is it? Is it? I don't think so. I'm going to do one more. I don't think they actually simulate that anyway, so that should be good there. Okay. Then we go to idle. What I do in real life is I actually make the throttle a little bit better there. I don't. That kind of shocks it a little bit too much. All right, so we've got fuel pumps on, mixture rich, lights, camera, action. North Central traffic, arrow 814 November Delta, taking runway 5, south departure, North Central. And clear left, clear right, and away we go. Always more right rudder. Yeah, I'm a little off center here. Okay, 65. Okay, gear up. Feet. We're going to turn to the bug. Trim. Alright, now let's reduce to climb cruise. So, and then fuel pump is off. So one thing that I found with the Just Flight Aero 3 that is not really as prominent in the current or in the real world is it does tend to be pretty pretty big on the P factor and the torque and everything. It definitely likes to turn left, and the problem with that, I have to really keep the yoke on a right turn basically. That is really not the case with the real world Aero. Unless you're like really at a cruise. Let's just focus on the cruise checklist right now here. Trim it out here. Alright, so now that right there is so there's Emerald Square Mall, my old stomping grounds. This is 95 right here, and according to the nav log, I was going to go it's going to go across 95, and then I'm going to take a right hand turn, and boy, I am not trimmed here. Hang on. Yeah, the trim is takes some getting used to here. Honestly, that is one of my struggles with the real life. I've sometimes I have good trim days and bad trim days. Looks like I'm pretty good now. Maybe not. Okay, so now I'm over my first waypoint, and I'm supposed to turn. So now I am turning 144. Oh, come on. Okay, so we're going to turn that way. You'll notice that I am not using the autopilot. That's because the real world Aero that I fly also does not have an autopilot. The Just Flight comes with really I forgot what they call it. It's they call it something a little different. It's because it's not a full autopilot. It really only automates the lateral part. It does not automatically trim or anything like that. So there we go. So now we're flying there, and we are clear of the Charlie as I intended. So if I plan this out right, this is going to lead us straight to the islands can see, that is Fall River over there. We are passing Providence, or we've just passed Providence that way. Let's take a look at our ground speed. It's 160. What I planned was only 150, so I guess the wind is a little bit in our favor here. I also need to reduce this down to about 24. I'm going to lean the mixture just a little bit here. Whoops. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to need to retrim again because So, because this is a relatively short flight, I'm not going to do flight following. But as we get closer to Nantucket, I am going to get the ATIS, and then, in fact, let me pre-tune that right now. $127. 0.5. And we'll see, yeah. So just by doing that, I've lost 100 feet of altitude here. Like I said, you know, in real life, once you're trimmed out and all of that, the arrow pretty much flies itself. You don't, you know, as long as it's going to do straight and level flight very well. And in the simulator, it doesn't really do as good a job. Like I said, you have to kind of keep your yoke turning to the right a little bit, which is very annoying. I really wish they would fix that. But this is one of the reasons why, you know, I don't use Flight Simulator to really keep me current on the actual maneuvering of the aircraft, because that part really, the differences are pretty substantial. I mean, there are certain things like trimming. Like right now, I am trimmed perfectly. I am not doing anything with the elevators. And that part is it's able to maintain an altitude pretty well, and that's good, because I do want to be able to remind myself to trim appropriately. So over there, right over there is New Bedford. I am above their class Delta, so I don't have to worry about contacting them. I'm just gonna check. All right. Quick check of that spy shows that there's no activity at Nantucket, so I really don't have to worry about announcing myself on their CTAF on VATSIM. So their tower is 118.3, so I'm gonna plug that in. And trimmed. Did get out of trim a little bit here, and you can kind of see that I am drifting as I do this. Like I said, you know, in the real airplane, you know, one thing that my CFI told me was in the Piper Arrow especially, when you're operating the radios or doing anything to that effect, it's, you know, it kind of flies itself. You should actually remove your hands from the yoke, because otherwise you are going to drift as you're operating the radios and doing other stuff. Here, I do have to keep my hand on the yoke because it keeps turning to the left. So the other thing, you know, the other part of the planning is looking at other airspace. So to the east, it's probably kind of far out over that way. There is restricted airspace. They very much do not like, or that they prohibit aircraft over this certain area, and a lot of the reason for that is they operate military equipment that could actually cause damage to your avionics, because it's a special radar equipment that they have on the ground. So it's kind of a pain, because flying to Cape Cod, they kind of occupy a pretty good patch of ground right at the I guess you could call it the shoulder of Cape Cod, the part where the arm just starts to stick out. It's very close to Hyannis, so you have to keep that in mind. So you can see this island right here. This is Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket is a bit beyond that. In fact, I'm kind of surprised I don't see it on the horizon yet, but it is kind of farther out there than Martha's Vineyard. Let's see if I can get the weather information yet. Alright, so they've got uniform right now. There's a fairly good chance that by the time I'm there, they might go to Victor, so I will do a quick check after that, but But yeah, overall, my plan went pretty well. This is exactly where I expect it to be. Um, for my flight here. I was going to be kind of northeast of Martha's Vineyard here. So I'm hoping that I land on 2-4, but we'll see how it goes there. I'm gonna tune tower frequency right now, just so that I have it. The top of descent. Top of descent was going to be at about 11 miles. Oop. So yeah, now you can see Nantucket there. So I have done a cross-country flight to Nantucket in real life before. This one was from Providence. It was with my flight instructor. It was one of the flight instructor cross countries that you need to take as part of your training. It was pretty, you know, one thing I remember was I was not expecting there to be an Airbus ahead of me, and there was also a corporate jet who was behind me, and I did not get off the runway in time, and they had to go around. I kind of felt bad for that guy, but my CFI told me not to worry about it. It happens. Go-arounds are a fact of life. Alright, so I'm going to start my descent right now. So I'm going to bring the manifold pressure down to 20. You'll see that I'm starting to descend right now. Let me just see if uniform's still on. Okay, now it's Victor, and yeah. So yeah, that's a big difference in the altimeter setting. It's rapidly rising because it was 3021 before. Alright, so now I've got oh, you know what I forgot to do? Hang on just a sec. I need to load my profile here. Not sure if my thing is working here. Let's try it. Yeah, that's that's weird. Hang on a sec. Attack. Why aren't you working? Alright, Something's wrong with my my flight yoke here. I'll just have to do it this way. That is really a pain. Nantucket Tower, Arrow 814 November Delta, 8 miles to the west inbound with Victor. South shoreline and then left base 33, Arrow 814 November Delta. So we're gonna do this. So we are still a little bit high here. I think that is the airport right there. So at this point, I'm going to go back to sterile cockpit, and so you won't hear too much from me, but you'll see all of my operations here as I get us down. Clear to land 33, Arrow 814 November Delta. gumps, gas, fuel, undercarriage, 3 green, mixture rich, propeller max. Planning checklist complete. We're a little bit fast and high. Oh, now we're good. Okay, so we're gonna float a little bit. That's okay on 3-3 though. I'm expecting a long landing anyways. That was a little flat. One 132.5, 814 November Delta. So that's another thing that's a little bit, well, I don't want to say unusual, but a lot of times you stay with tower after you land on a lot of these class deltas. Nantucket ground, Arrow 814 November Delta, taxi FBO. You said 132.5, right? Nantucket Tower. Can you say that ground frequency again, please? Alright. It seems Say Intentions has oh, that's right. I forgot. Nantucket ground, Arrow 814 November Delta, taxi to FBO. Bravo, Foxtrot, Charlie, 814 November Delta. I'll just check on that. Echo, Foxtrot, Charlie? Oh, yeah, okay. I'm basically right there. Okay. Yeah, I would normally not do that. In real life. Alright. So, yeah, this is basically the FBO right here. So, I'll just, although, usually that big building there is for the hoity-toity folks in the Learjets. This shack, it looks more like mine. So I'm just gonna park it right here. I'm gonna try something real quick on the Say Intentions here. I'm gonna see if it has like Unicom. Nantucket FBO, Arrow 814 November Delta. Nantucket FBO, Arrow 814 November Delta. Yeah, I guess it doesn't really have that. Okay. Oh, no. Actually, maybe they do. It's 122.95. Let's try that. Nantucket FBO, Arrow 814 November Delta. Yeah, probably. Oh well, it was worth a shot. Would have been kind of cool if they did that. All right, let's do our parking checklist here. So I'm gonna bring this back to neutral. Make sure this is all set. Turn this off. Yep. Alright. Turn that off. And we are good to go. So, yeah, I would wait for the FBO to do my tie downs. Do that. Open the cabin door, stretch out my legs, and enjoy my time in Nantucket. So yeah, non-eventful flight. You could tell that I wasn't as error prone when I went with the sterile cockpit for the critical phases, so that's good. The one thing that I should have done, although this would have been caught in real life much more easily, is my push to talk button for say intentions was not actually working that well. So we'll see what I might do later on is just check that. I mean, that does happen in real life. Push to talk doesn't always work. You don't always have the comm. Sometimes it's broken or stuck or whatever. I guess I actually wouldn't have noticed typically until I did get to Nantucket, because all my previous calls were just CTAF traffic advisories. So yeah, that would have been actually pretty much close to what I experienced here, except in my case I basically did the equivalent of what you would do in this situation, was use the other yoke for the push to talk. I have another hotkey for push to talk that I use for say intentions, so there was at least that. So there was actually a little bit of a real life situation there that I had to figure out, and I had to remember to use it too. So good experience for what would happen in the real world for that. Always you should always have another PPT, right? So yeah, that's about it, and I'll see you guys later.